Hey everybody, Ricky Shockley with Med Spa Magic Marketing, and this is the last video in our 2025 marketing series walkthrough. This is part 8. In previous parts of the series, we covered how to get clients to choose your med spa in a competitive landscape, how to truly understand ROI and measurement so that you can have confidence your marketing is an investment, not an expense. And then we went into our marketing system to attract boatloads of clients consistently. This covered how to solve the bad leads problem, maximize conversion rates. I went through our best performing Facebook ads frameworks and showed you all of the stuff that we do in terms of graphic framework, offer selection, ad copy, and backend processes. We went through Google Ads best practices to ensure you're not wasting money on clicks that are not likely to convert, and you've got a good system in place for maximizing ROI from your Google Ads investment. I went through my SEO checklist, how we've had clients featured on Forbes and GQ, and the tools you can use to use that. And then ultimately, how to achieve omnipresence. Once you get beyond digital, how do you make sure that clients are seeing you everywhere? This is the last video in the series, which is on retention strategies. And ultimately, really believe these are the things that are going to make or break your practice. The other stuff is relatively easy. If you follow the framework that we've outlined, you will see as many new clients as you want. As long as you're investing on the front end in terms of ad spend. The butts in the seats component is very predictable, actually. The thing that's going to make or break you long term is your ability to retain clients and to get people coming back for more. So let's talk about what client retention and rebooking strategies entail. The first is we want to put the spa in med spa. On my screen, I've got a picture of a doctor's office that's very cold and uninviting here on the left. And on the right side, a beautiful med spa waiting room with high-end office chairs and professional interior decor and a warm environment and ambiance. Now, this doesn't stop just at your aesthetic. In all aspects of your business, you want to be really leaning in to the spa part of the word med spa, right? Medical has a connotation associated with it of being very cold and uninviting. Um, and a med spa really needs to lean into the spa element of the category name. So we're going to talk about how to do that today. All right. So the first is understanding the reality of provider loyalty. People are going to be loyal to the provider more than they are to the practice. So it's really important to make sure your providers are top notch in terms of service results and patient satisfaction. Good is not good enough. If you have somebody that you feel like is doing a decent job or a good job, they're probably not the right fit. You want your injectors to be rock stars that their patients love and come back to time and time again because they wouldn't trust anybody else to perform service on them. The other thing here is to make sure that you've got a good strategy for provider retention. Knowing that your patients are going to be largely loyal to the providers and not the shell that is the med spa, you need to create incentive structures to make sure your providers are happy and that they're with you long term. Every time a provider leaves, you're hitting the reset button, at least to some degree, on the success of your med spa. So ensure you've got great provider retention. Another good strategy, though, is to diversify risk by developing custom treatment protocols. So I took this from our clients, Stephen and Renata Roddy from Roddy Med Spa in Danvers. So shout out to them for this idea. They do this at their med spa. But let's come up with some sort of a master SOP, standard operating procedure, that guides our treatment plans. So if we're plugging new injectors in, the patient has confidence that they're still getting the same application of protocol. So I think this is something that nobody really does, or not many people do, but it can make a major difference in helping you create stickiness beyond just the providers themselves. So here's some of the key elements. I pulled this from a ChatGPT brainstorm for the presentation on how to create a custom treatment protocol. The first is give it a brand name. So example, the radiance method, lift and balance protocol, whatever it is, give your protocol a name. Have a clear philosophy that guides it, almost like a mission statement of the philosophy. Have standard assessments. So how do you come up with the treatment plan? Face mapping, photos, goal analysis, and then come up with a treatment plan that sort of aligns with the specific way that you want to provide service to clients. So the more that you can standardize this process and this system, the more loyalty you create to the practice and the protocol that you developed, and you take some of that loyalty off the back of the injector alone. If everybody's operating as an independent contractor, then they leave, the patient has no reason to stay with your practice. So if you can implement a custom treatment protocol that carries throughout your all of your providers and kind of is the layer on top that guides their treatment plans, you're going to be a lot more successful. I think that's a really, really good idea. So the next thing is white glove experience, talking about putting the spa on med spa. How can we do that in terms of just providing a white glove customer experience? Here are some ideas for you. Call all of your leads after booking them to welcome them and to touch base with them. So let's not have the first time they show up, the first time they talk to somebody at your med spa. Let's try to get them on the phone. Let's welcome them in. Also, automate additional touch points, get them excited about their visit, send them Instagram links, welcome videos, before and afters, get them really excited for the new prospects. When they come in, welcome them into the office with a smile and hopefully an invitation for snacks and refreshments as well. I actually just went to a mechanic shop, so this is top of mind for me when we were traveling. So we were traveling with some friends to the mountains of North Carolina. I realized going down those steep hills that our brakes were shaking going down the hills, and I wanted to get the car in. Not normally something you plan to do on vacation. We found a shop that could get us in the same day, and I was super impressed by the way that they operated their business. The way that they handled everything on the phone was very professional and very, very customer service oriented. When I showed up at the office, he recognized the car. He knew I had an appointment. Before I even introduced myself, he said, "Hey, Mr. Shockley, welcome. Excited to see you today." Everything they did, they under promised and over delivered. They offered me snacks and refreshments. So I think that's a really, really good idea. Welcome them into the office with a smile and an invitation for snacks and refreshments. After the appointment, don't be transactional. Don't just take their money and then hopefully you see them again in 4 months. Call them post appointment to check on them. This is an opportunity to build loyalty and to build on the patient experience. Hey there, wanted to briefly interrupt the episode to make a quick ask. If you're a podcast listener, it would mean the world to us if you'd leave a review for the podcast, whether that's on iTunes or Spotify. It's something I hadn't really remembered or thought of asking for, but it does help us show up more frequently so that we can reach more people with the information that we're providing. So it would mean the world to us if you'd leave a review on iTunes or Spotify if you're listening on audio. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you're in the loop for future videos and you don't miss any of the content that we're putting out. So this episode is brought to you by Med Spa Magic Marketing, my agency. We help med spas and aesthetics practices grow with more effective marketing strategies. And I know that's a vague phrase, right? That's a vague claim. So I have an offer for you. I offer this to any new prospects. If you're interested in exploring another marketing option, a new agency, or just getting into Facebook, Instagram, Google Ads for the first time, I'd love to show you why we're different, what we're doing for clients. And we can do that via a 1.5 hour planning session where I'll outline a specific marketing plan and I'll give you all of the blueprints that we would implement if we were to do business together. Now you can take that, use that on your own, hire someone else to help you execute it, or work with us. We really don't hold anything back on that strategy call. And I think you'll have a lot of confidence in how you manage your marketing investment moving forward, understanding some of the nuances that can help you implement more effective marketing strategies for your business. So if you want to do that, you can go to medspamagicmarketing.com. Next thing here is master the consult. So welcoming friendly practitioners. We don't want to be cold. We don't want to feel like a medical office. We want to feel like we are providing a luxury experience. Try to stick to a consistent script or at least a framework that guides the conversation. If you're winging it every time, you have no consistency in terms of your presentation. So figure out what that looks like in your business across providers and make sure that those conversations are not so cookie cutter that they're obvious, but make sure that there is a specific agenda for the consult. Use open-ended questions to expose desired outcomes. So get the clients talking, have them explain why they're here, what they're hoping to accomplish, what things bother them. A couple good tips I've heard from our podcast and from people that I've talked to are you want them to address the problem. You really don't want to point out something they weren't aware of. That's just probably not a good practice to make someone self-conscious of something they weren't self-conscious of originally. So let them talk, ask open-ended questions, and really have a consultation mentality as opposed to a sales mentality. Present holistic solutions and treatment plans without being salesy. And when I say without being salesy, I had this podcast episode, if you're looking for it, Raquel Merlini is her name, and the episode is called Building a 5-Star Med Spa Leadership and Patient Loyalty Tips. She had some really great insights here, so I wanted to go over some of what she talked about when it comes to educating and not selling to your prospects. So no pushing sales. She doesn't have any sort of requirement for a benchmark for cross-selling or upselling prospects. And I think that's a good idea. If I had to pick my side of the fence on this, I understand that sales are important. we're in business. We need to make money. We need to be profitable. But I would argue that the best way to do this long term is to not push these things on clients that don't want them. So, how do we reframe our mindset when it comes to sales to do it in a way that's going to be educational and ultimately lead to a better outcome for not only the patient, but the business? Here's some tips on how to do that. So, say no when appropriate. Treat the client the way that they need to be treated. I think some of the people that do this best are not afraid to turn away clients. One of our clients on our rebooking roundtable talked about, hey, if someone's coming in and they're looking for me to rubber stamp like 15 units because they just want to kind of dictate the strategy, they're probably not going to be a good fit. Raquel mentioned the same thing on her episode. So do what you know is best. Say no when appropriate. Um, and then when it comes to the educational component, I think there's a nuance here. You want to make sure people understand their options and they receive enough of an education to get a treatment that's going to achieve the desired outcome. So if somebody comes in and they just respond to a 20 units offer, you don't want to rubber stamp 20 units. If you take the time to educate the prospect on how to achieve their desired outcome, it's probably going to mean more units. It might also mean pairing Botox with another service like microneedling or adding some filler to a certain area. But the educational component will achieve the sales objective. So don't miss the educational component. Just make sure it doesn't come from a place of I'm trying to sell you something. It's, hey, you've told me that this is what you're trying to accomplish. If I were you, I think is a really good baseline to work from. This is what I do when we are consulting our clients. Is I always come from a mindset, and I'll communicate this to our clients and our prospects. If I were you, what would I do? Based on what you told me and what the right next move is, here are the things that I would do if I were you. I think if that guides your consultation, your sales process, that it really will allow you to provide educational services to your prospects in a way that's helpful and doesn't cross the line into being sales oriented. The other thing here is if you only are promoting things that you believe in and you're doing what you think is right by the client, when you truly believe in a service, people will believe you. You don't want to be the boy who cried wolf or the woman who cried wolf here and always tout every single service and make it obvious that all you're trying to do is sell people something they don't want or need. As long as you're selling things that you believe in, it's not sales. And I think that's the way to live and die by that sword here when it comes to sales and patient education. Another tidbit here, rebooking. Rebook in the treatment room. This is really important. A mistake that we see a lot of people make is they pass off rebooking to the front office and they ask questions like if, not when. You really want the provider to be responsible for the rebooking. They're the one that's responsible for the result and maintaining the result and the relationship with the client. So if you need to see someone back in 90 days for their next Botox appointment, as a default, they shouldn't leave your office until they're on the schedule and put the onus on them to cancel. So what you'll hear a lot of people say is, hey, I want to check my schedule. I think the right response to that is, oh, that's totally fair. Go home and check and make sure this works. Let's put something on the calendar. And if it doesn't work, you can call me back. It's a great way to reset the conversation and to allow you to rebook the client in the office. Don't pass it off. Don't allow for an opportunity for there to be a disconnect between you and the prospect or to give them an easy out. You really want to make sure that you've got something on the schedule. If they need to reschedule or cancel the appointment, they can do that later. But the default should be that they're leaving with an appointment on the schedule for follow-up. So Jake Laban on the podcast talked about asking when and not if, as we just talked about, and having the practitioner set up rebooking, not handing that off. Great tips there. The last thing here to think about are your reviews and your reputation online. If we want to rebook clients at a high rate, we want to have good retention numbers. We need to make sure that our reputation is good because we're going to attract the wrong people from the get-go if it's not. If you're running offer-based promos and you have a reputation that is subpar, you're going to attract people that were not coming for your reputation originally, and the rebooking and retention rates are going to suffer. So make sure that upfront you're advertising in a way that's attracting the right clients. And I think one of the best ways to do that is to make sure your online reputation is really an A+. So you can see here on my screen, I've got 3 med spas. One of them has a 4.9 and 2 of them have 5-star ratings. All other things equal, an incremental difference in your star rating is going to lead to you getting the phone call more often than not. So make sure that you're doing whatever you have to maintain that 5.0, 4.9 star rating. Really at the very lowest would be the goal as a med spa, in my opinion, because otherwise everything else you do will suffer in terms of not only client attraction, but your ability to attract the right types of clients that you'll rebook and retain at a high rate. If If you need help implementing any of this or any other marketing for your practice, you can go to medspamagicmarketing.com to schedule a call with me. Thanks for tuning into the 2025 series. We got lots more videos and tutorials, walkthroughs, and expert interviews coming up for the rest of the year. So we'll see you on the next one.